This is Tuesday, June 11th. There are 43 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2024. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE go. Oh my God, I love Live Journal and my Live Journal loves me. Current movies, hyperactive, current news, refuge 73. I love the color scheme in pink and purple.
Hello, everybody. I'm your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
And our special guest this evening, the current event director at ReedPop, Maija Gates.
Nice to meet you. Nice to say hello to everybody.
Hello. All right, so welcome, everyone. As the summer heats up, so do our excitement levels for Comic-Con. We'll be taking your comments and questions during the show. You can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. We'll also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment or ask a question there. So first up, we're going to talk to Maija. So Carrie, why don't you get us started?
Well, Maija, first of all, thank you so much for joining us, especially because, as we've been discussing, this is your first time ever doing a podcast.
Ever, yes.
So we are so grateful that you're doing it with us. But for anyone who is listening now who may not be familiar with you and your history about the convention, why don't you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I was with San Diego Comic-Con for 22 years. So I got to see it during a really interesting growth period. And the joke around town is kind of that I was born into Comic-Con. And it's not much of a joke. It's very true. My mother, Faye Desmond, was the executive director for 40s, 50s, something, I don't know, but she just retired. I'm so happy for her. So Comic-Con has literally been a part of my life from as long as I could remember. From very, very early age, Comic-Con has always been there. I don't remember a time where Comic-Con wasn't in my life. So it's been pretty special working on that event. Yeah, that's who I am. And now, after 22 wonderful years at Comic-Con, I've moved on to ReedPop, and I am the event director for their branded portfolio, which is currently MagicCon. We do 3 shows a year, 1 international. It's all about Magic the Gathering. It's an entire convention built around their Pro Tour and World Championship, where we have programming, we have an artist alley, we have an after party. It's a really exciting endeavor to be a part of. So that's where I'm at now.
That's very cool. So you mentioned your mother, and so arguably you mentioned Faye Desmond, has been probably more involved in shaping Comic-Con than almost anyone else. She was also Comic-Con's first employee, apparently, and went on to become, as you mentioned, the executive director. So you mentioned you're from the early age. What was that like growing up in that world?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember being in my living room on a weekend after, school's out, or it's the weekend, and I'm in my living room putting badges into envelopes, licking envelopes, sealing envelopes, putting labels on envelopes, put a badge in the envelope, thousands of these. So me and my mom, my brother were sitting on our living room floor doing the badge mailing for San Diego Comic-Con. We were the fulfillment house. It was a very, grassroots family situation at that time. And I didn't know any better, just was something that we did as a family. And every year I'd attend Comic-Con. It was very exciting. And there'd be these really weird moments. I remember one time the phone rang, and our home phone was literally the Comic-Con customer service line. So my home phone number was where people called for Comic-Con customer service. So the phone rings, 5, 6 p.m. I pick it up and I say, hello. And they go, oh, may I speak to Faye Desmond, please? I say, of course. May I ask who's calling? Well, this is William Shatner. I'm like, oh, okay. Mom, William Shatner's on the phone. It was just this very surreal experience that Comic-Con was always in my life. I was always involved in it. There was a few years where I was a teenager in high school, I thought it was dumb and I didn't go, but it has been a really cool experience growing up in the world of Comic-Con, and I can't remember a time where it wasn't a big part of my life.
I think we have a couple of photos that we were going to show, and some that you may not even know that we have.
Oh, no.
So this one.
Oh, I love this one. Let me tell you a little bit about this one. Gosh, I'm 5, maybe 6 years old there. So the first few years I went to Comic-Con, I wasn't old enough to read. That's how long I've been going to Comic-Con. And at that time, it was held at the El Cortez Hotel in the basement of the El Cortez. And the El Cortez had this glass elevator that went up, about 20 stories. So as a kid, that was the best thing on earth. So my first memories of Comic-Con were just going up and down this glass elevator with my dad while my mom was working or looking around the convention. And it wasn't until I could read that I really got involved in going to Comic-Con. So they brought me to the comic book store. I picked out a book called Elf Quest by Wendy and Richard Pini. And this costume is from Elf Quest. I am Lita, and the kid on my left is Cutter. And I remember my mom and my grandma worked really, really hard in this costume, and I was so, so, so proud of it. And I got to meet Richard and Wendy Pini. And I took a picture with them, and it was very, very fun moment as a kid. And several months later, that picture came up in the back of the ElfQuest magazine. And as a kid, I just felt like a superstar. I'm here I am in my favorite comic, in the back pages when they used to have, photos and write-ins and fan questions to the authors. So that is that was my first comic, ElfQuest.
Wow.
I love that.
All right. And we have another one.
So Gary sent us this.
That is me. Yep. I cannot tell you how many countless or number of board meetings my mother drugged me to and committee meetings as a child. I was very actively involved, not involved in the committee at that age, but I was almost at every single meeting. And what a funny memory. I'm sitting in my mom's lap. But like I said, that was just kind of what my childhood was like. I was around a lot of adults all the time, which I think shaped me in a really, really good way. And also around a community that loved each other and cared about each other and supported each other in their fandom. So, oh man, this is a great photo. I'm glad Gary shared that. George Perez. So after I read ElfQuest, my next favorite comic book was The New Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. And again, my mom made that badge. I'm very, very proud of, I'm sorry, that my mom made that costume. We are very, very proud of it. And that was a special moment for me to meet him. And I actually remember this costume. This was the first year that I entered the masquerade. So me and my best friend, we decided we were going to enter the masquerade. I dressed up as Raven and she dressed up as Supergirl. And we walked out on the stage. The bright lights are on us. We're in our costumes and we struck our big pose. And then we froze. We didn't know what to do. We were just kids. So we're standing on the stage frozen. And the audience was so great. They were clapping. And then it got a little quiet and awkward. And then they started chanting and cheering, and get off the stage. But it wasn't aggressively. It was just trying to help us. And I think finally someone from back of house, probably Martin Jaquish, scooted out on stage, brushed us off the stage. But I have a souvenir from that I'm very, very proud of. It is my 1985 San Diego Comic-Con 1985 Masquerade Best Child's Costume Trophy. So I've kept this for several decades, and I'm very, very proud of this.
Wow, that's awesome.
I love that you still have that. Yeah, that's amazing.
And then we have one more. This one's a little more recent.
Oh, Gary. That was at the art show he put together at the library, the San Diego Downtown Library. That was the opening reception. Gary was a really, really incredible friend to me and coworker and colleague. He has a brilliant creative eye, responsible for so many of the great innovations at Comic-Con. He did the entire website when we first launched it. So yeah, Gary, I have lots of love for. Hi, Gary.
Well, that's awesome.
You may even be watching at some point tonight. So that's fun. Are there any other particular memories that really stand out from when you were a kid at Comic-Con?
It's funny. When I was a kid at Comic-Con, it was a very different time. So I would invite a couple of friends and we'd drive down with my dad. And my dad wasn't involved in Comic Con very much at all. He was just kind of there to support Faye. And but they drive us down and they just drop us off. So, I'm 9, 10 years old and we're running around the dealer's room is what they called it at that time. And we're digging through the white boxes, looking for back issues of comics, and we're buying toys and we're going to panels. And it was this sort of real sense of freedom for me as a kid. Here's this event once a year for like 3 days where I just get to run around and do my own thing and enjoy the experience. So yeah, it was those years, the earliest years, I think, was just a lot about being free with my friends to like roam around and see everything. And yeah, I don't remember a whole bunch of the content we saw, but I do remember like digging through the comic books. I can still smell them to this day, the smell of the dealer's room and digging through the comic books. And that was a special time.
Yeah, those conventions certainly have a unique aspect to them, with the smells and the sights and everything.
It was a good smell, like a library smell.
I know the book smell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, progressing from there, you said for a while you were like, ugh, Comic-Con, but that's a teenager thing. But then you went to work, and going from, you worked in industry registration to your own department up as Chief Experience Officer. So growing up, watching your parents do something, especially something as demanding as this, can sometimes drive people away from following in their footsteps. What made you think like, yeah, this is what I want to do?
I didn't. I never thought I'd be doing this. So I went to school for anthropology and I thought I was going to be Indiana Jones. I was really into Egyptology. I wanted to go on digs. And then once I started taking some classes in anthropology, I realized I really liked the physical side of physical anthropology, which included things like epidemiology, genealogy, genetics, forensic anthropology. So I leaned more onto that side of things, the more hard science part of the anthropology. And while I was working there, though, I was helping out in the summer during Comic Con, and I was doing very, menial labor. This is back when we would hand type badges into FileMaker, print them out, put the label on. I'm reviewing applications, just a lot of sort of paper pushing at that time and typing. And by the time I graduated college, I was like, I love this job. I love the people. I love what we do. I love our mission. I love the community. I would like to stay. So I think my first position was professional registration, vetting all the pro applications and hand entering their badges and answering emails. And then I moved on to exhibitor registration, which is a little more challenging and more involved because you have to collect some, California franchise forms and height and line of sight variances. You have to have all your forms buttoned up and you have to chase exhibitors down to get them. And that kind of grew from pro reg and exhibitor reg into industry registration, which is now contained with also program participant registration. Attendee reg is all sort of or not attendee reg, but guest registration, program, all that stuff under one area. And I really enjoyed registration. And then there was a point where the previous floor manager had quit and we didn't have anybody. And I said, that's something I would really like to try to do. I've been doing exhibitor registration. I know the exhibitors. I'm familiar with them. I've got to know them. So my next big role was floor manager, which now belongs to Justin Dutta, who is an incredible human. His team is amazing. But we used to do it so old school. We would roll out this entire map of the show floor, hall A to H. And that's back when we had the expo as well. So like hall A and B were the expo. And then we would take little pieces, scissors, and cut out little pieces of paper for every booth and glue them onto this map. And I'd spend hours, just putting, it's a insane jigsaw puzzle of putting this map together. And then Faye would walk in, she'd take a look at it, and she's like, nope, he can't go there because he doesn't get along with that guy. And nope, she can't go there because she owes that guy money. Like, she had all this incredible historical knowledge that you wouldn't know unless you'd been in the industry for years and years and years. So I do all this really hard work and I'd be so proud of my plan, and she'd just come in and wipe it clean, and I'd have to start over. So I did a few years as a floor manager. It was a really, really demanding gig. And then right around, gosh, I don't remember what year it was. A lot of people talk about Twilight being the year that San Diego went Hollywood. You know, that was the turn. But really the turn was the year that Angelina Jolie came for Tomb Raider. That was our first big A-list talent. And when you bring A-list talent to convention, you need infrastructure. You need a safe drop-off location. You need escorts. You need security. You need back of house, green rooms, credentials, somewhere to park the cars, somewhere to do their press junket. You know, there's all this infrastructure built around bringing high-level talent. And at the time, Sue Lord from Guest Relations, who also does volunteers and is also an amazing human, she was doing all of the high-profile talent in addition to the guest relations, and it just was too much. So that was how the talent relations team and department was born. It was really out of necessity to build that infrastructure around the high level of talent that was now coming to Comic-Con. So I did about 13 years in talent relations, which is a lot of fun. I have a lot of great stories I wish I could tell, but I'm a professional. I won't name names. And then we were talking, I think, before the podcast started, a little bit about the year of Ticket Leapfrog, and the registration systems, you know, melting down, not able to handle the load. And that really interested me. I found that problem fascinating, and I wanted to figure out how to solve that problem. How do we fix, you know, this incredible load that's hitting our systems and can't manage it? So we actually talked to some big name companies like Ticketmaster and Live Nation, but we made a really we made a decision based on the fans. We did not want to pass those fees off to the fans. We didn't want to pass those Ticketmaster fees off to, you know, $50 on a $100 ticket. It just felt wrong to us as an organization. We were always a fan-first organization. So I said, you know what? I think we can fix this. So they sent me out to Las Vegas to this show called CES, and that's where I met Epic Registration. And if you're long time ago, you might remember the name Epic Registration. And we ended up working with them to custom build the waiting room. That was not something that was common back when we launched it. It was a really new thing. Today, almost everybody uses Qt. It's an out-of-the-box solution. That didn't exist back then. So we worked with registration to custom build this waiting room, and then the fan journey from the waiting room to the registration to badge, you know, checkout. So love me or hate me, I am responsible, unfortunately, for creating the waiting room. And some of the fun parts of that, I think, were the yellow status bar messages. I got to write those. Those are a lot of fun. The blogs, the instructional blogs, you know, you're the Cheerio and the spoon picks up the Cheerio. You know, I wrote that one as well.
That is our all-time favorite. For sure.
Yeah, that was, you know, trying to explain to the fans that, you know, this really is a random system. You don't have to get there early. You can get there, you know, 15 minutes before. The Cheerios are going to get out, you know. So I quite enjoyed solving those problems of registration and fixing that. And one of the things I'm really proud of is kind of silly. I'm a big festival, or used to be. I went to a lot of festivals, Coachella, EDC, All Points West. And a couple of years after we were doing the waiting room, Coachella implemented the waiting room. And I was going through their FAQ to get ready for ticket sales. And I'm like, reading the language, and I'm like, this is oddly familiar. They copy and pasted what I wrote in the Comic-Con FAQ into the Coachella FAQ. So I'm like, all right, we've done something good here now. You know, we've set an industry standard. So that was pretty cool to see a much, you know, a very famous other company using our model. So I was kind of dual for a while. I was still director of talent relations, and I was doing, my title was division manager, and I was doing registration. And then after some time, we developed the experience design team. And that was purely focused on in-house development of things like the exclusives portal, the signing portal, trying to solve these problems of too many people, or solving brick and mortar problems with event technology. Like, how can we use event technology to solve some of the challenges that Comic-Con has? And that was fascinating to me. I really got into it. I ended up being the liaison between our engineers and basically the end users. So every day of my life was trying to put myself, or every day at my job was trying to put myself into the mind of an attendee. You know, how would an attendee think? Does this pattern make sense? Does this process make sense? Is it fair? We spent so much time making sure that every system we designed was as fair as possible. And it was always, you know, disheartening to read the Twitter comments after every sale or the Facebook comments after every sale, because we really did put a lot of thoughtful effort into making the system as fair as possible. And we wanted everybody to have an equal opportunity to get the tickets, the exclusives, and not have to wait in line for 2 days on the backside of the convention center to get a Lego or a Funko exclusive. So I know some people love line culture. I know for Hall H, it will probably never go away because there's the camping and the community of it all. And so if you love line culture, you probably hate me. If you hate waiting in lines, you can thank me for trying to solve that problem with technology.
Well, you can never please everyone, but we appreciate that you've tried.
I have tried, yes.
Yes. So you just covered a whole lot. No, that's great. I would like to go back a little to talk about talent relations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you were saying, you really sort of spearheaded some of the infrastructure in building up what has now become like a massive Hollywood event there. What role do you think that those Hollywood panels have had on the Comic-Con and helping it to grow?
I mean, they've had a huge impact on Comic-Con. And I kind of want to give a little bit of a shout out. There's a gentleman named Jeff Walker. You can Google him. He's kind of well known in the industry. And he's the one that brought Hollywood to Comic-Con. He's the one that convinced them this is a valuable place for you to bring your products. You have a fan base who wants this content. And it really was Jeff who brought all of these studios to us initially, which was a big get for a show like ours. And while I was in talent relations, I had the pleasure of working with the programming team. So Eddie Ibrahim, Tommy Goldbach, Laura Jones, Adam, they were all wonderful people to work with, putting together sort of what's happening on stage with what's happening behind stage. So I'm doing the behind stage stuff. But I think the impact it's had on Comic-Con specifically is just bringing in a broader audience, bringing in, I hate to say it, but I think bringing in more of a female fan base. And I think that's a good thing. You know, it doesn't matter how they get there, just as long as we get them in the building. You know, we want to see more women in comics, women in sci-fi, women in movies. So I just, you know, we got lucky. San Diego got lucky. We got Jeff Walker, we got Hollywood, and it became this huge thing that now, you know, like I mentioned, people sleep 2 or 3 days on the harbor to get into.
Are there
it's a little
any?
crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. For you, like what does it feel like to have watched this event that, you know, you grew up going to and that was not the behemoth that it is today to what it is now?
I love it. Actually, I love the time that I came into it because it was just starting to grow. And it kind of felt like I was like at a startup, right? You know, everyone was excited, everyone was eager, and it was just starting to sort of take off. I can't remember exactly. I was either the 8th or the 10th employee of Comic-Con. And, you know, so when I started, it was a very small operation. You know, fast forward several years, I don't know how many employees they have now, but it's more than a dozen, it's more than 30. So watching the trajectory of the event, really from a time where you could buy a ticket for the show the day before, like the show before, just walk in there, you know, 2009, I'm going to buy my ticket for 2010 and it's already secure, to a show that sold out online in 80 minutes. You know, watching that trajectory was really not only exciting, but it made me feel proud of what we were doing and making it something really special. Talent relations, but let me tell you about talent relations. I have some great stories from talent relations that I would love to share, but because I am a professional, I don't drop names. I pick and choose the ones I share. But backstage of Hall H is really quite a riot, as well as backstage of Ballroom 20 and the Sixes. And within that infrastructure, there's always green rooms, right? There's somewhere that the talent needs to stage, get prepared, get prepped for their panel. And in those green rooms, all the studios would order catering. And anybody who's bought food at the convention center knows how expensive convention center food is. And well, the catering is about twice that. So the catering is very, very expensive. So all the catering would have these labels on it, like, Sony Studios, Fox Studios, Warner Brothers. Everybody had their own little sections to come in and get their catering. So this is many, many years ago. And I'm going to use names because I think this is a great story and they would not be sad if I told the story. But many, many years ago, Snoop Dogg came to Comic-Con for a panel. And he had 2 deliveries of Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles driven down from LA to the green room. It was very impressive. So, he had his morning delivery. And then when that got cold, the next showed up, there's more, chicken and waffles. Unfortunately, Snoop got caught in traffic on the 405 and he missed his panel. He called into it. It was a different experience. We hadn't had that happen before. So there's all the chicken and waffles in the green room. So I'm in the green room with a couple of my staff, and in walks Rosario Dawson. And she walks up and she starts making herself a plate of chicken and waffles. And my staff, bless their hearts, they said, I'm so sorry, Miss Dawson, but that food's for Snoop Dogg. You can't eat that. And she looks around. She goes, is he here? And we're like, no. And she goes, okay. And starts making a plate. And then she makes another plate. And then she makes another plate. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? So sweet. She took every single plate and walked them over to the volunteers and the staff that were working in that room. And that is such a wonderful snapshot to me of how, celebrities are human too, obviously, and they are kind. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of really, really awesome people, kind people. And I just love that story. It's a feel-good story for me. And it talks a little bit about to her credit, what a great human she is. And then of course, Snoop showed up later and he was fabulous as well. I think he had a birthday party that day. We helped him go shopping on the show floor to get some presents. So yeah, that was a good year.
That sounds awesome. So that sounds like kind of a minor unexpected challenge with Snoop Dogg having to call in. Are there any other really big unexpected challenges or last minute changes that you've had to really figure something out to handle?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what event planning is, planning for all the worst case scenarios. I am an avid Formula One racing fan, and I was at the race last year in Las Vegas, and it was the first time in Vegas they were doing this race, and a lot of the logistics and ops were just not good. People were complaining about this and complaining about that. And so the night of qualifying, a manhole cover blew off, hit one of the multi-million-dollar cars. It was this big thing in the community and the industry. And everyone's like, oh, this is in shambles. They've done a horrible job, planning this event. And the next morning, there's a picture on the front page of the Las Vegas newspaper of 5 or 6 people just standing around this manhole, staring down at it. And I'm like, that's event planning in a nutshell, man. It's you get these problems that you have to solve that you never anticipated were going to happen, and you have to fix them quickly. You have to come up with solutions. Sidebar, they ended up having the race in Vegas. It was one of the best races of the year, and everyone's excited for them to come back next year. But Comic-Con's like that all the time. You're always getting hit with challenges and surprises. And, you just do your best to have plan B, plan C, plan D ready to go as a backup. And then if you don't, you improvise. And then sometimes there's some challenges there's just nothing you can do about. Many years ago when Heroes was really popular, Heroes was appearing on stage, and I think it was her second season. So everybody was really excited. The room was hyped. It was electric. The whole cast was there. And to get to the stage, they had to take an elevator. It was only a couple of floors, but it was a glass elevator, by the way, only a couple of floors. And so all the talent gets into the elevator and they get in, they push the button, they start going down, and it breaks. and they're in the elevator. And it's just it starts to move, but it's moving like 1 inch every minute. And so we're all the base of the elevator. You know, you got security, you've got the Comic-Con staff, you've got the studio, you know, assistants just staring up at this elevator packed with the heroes cast, and it's not moving. And they're set to be on stage like right then. So, you know, someone gets on the phone to Convention Center Services, someone radios security, we radio Hall H and say, you guys got to stall. And I think this was pre-Eddie Ibrahim. This might have been during Gary's tenure. So I don't know if it was Gary out there stalling on stage, but like the MC had to stall for like a good 10 minutes while this elevator just moved at the slowest possible pace ever. And there's nothing you can do. So as an event planner, you make the calls, you watch the elevator, they got off, they jumped out, they were relieved, they went straight on stage and did an incredible job. So, you know, no one, I think, in that room of attendees would have ever known all that craziness happened backstage. And that's just what event planning is, hiding a lot of the craziness.
So
Wow.
Gary is in the chat and he says hi, but he also says, ask her about the Star Wars concert.
I'm going to get to that, Gary. So one of my favorite things I ever did with Comic-Con was The Force Awakens. When The Force Awakens came, and they decided that they were going to do the concert behind Hall H at the Symphony with John Williams. So we knew about it several months in advance. So we were meeting with Disney, the SDPD, Traffic Control, the Harbor Police, the Coastal Commission. There's so many entities involved when you're moving 6,500 people at once out of a building, down a street in unison, a street that's operating, and to the symphony. And at that time, you know, the street people. Anyhow, it's a challenging thing to get 65 people out of a building all at once. And we were a little bit short on staff. So as they were walking out, they needed a credential. We had to hand them a lanyard with a pass on it for them to get to the symphony. So me and my staff, we were standing up on these planners by the glass doors when you exit Hall H, and we were passing out the credentials. And I saw so many happy people. I saw people crying. People were thanking us. People were saying it was the best day of their lives. It was such a great surprise. And spending so many years behind the scenes and not working with the attendees, that was my first time I got to really see like the fruits of my labor. And I teared up. I was so happy for these people and happy that we could do it for them. So when we're thinking about a lot of the stuff I did at Comic-Con, that is definitely one of my favorites.
Well, I'll let you know that that panel and the subsequent concert is probably, I would say, top 3 of my all-time Comic-Con things. And I've been going since '94. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, you know, big props to Eddie Ibrahim and his team, the whole talent relations team. It was a great endeavor, and I'm glad it paid off.
It certainly did. So as the Chief Experience Officer in that position, and I think Gary even mentioned this in the chat as well, you were instrumental in getting the badge boxes made that went out for a few years that included a pin and some other items. Everybody loves those, and we still get asked about like badge boxes every year.
We get asked like 100 times a year. Yeah.
How did that idea come about?
You know, I had to fight for those. I really wanted to do those. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. This is something I stole from Coachella. So as an avid festival goer, you get your wristband in a cute little box. And one year I went to EDC and they delivered this box. It was like 8 by 10. It bifolded out 4 ways. It had, you know, your pocket guide. It had stickers. And it was just such a great start to the event, right? You buy your ticket online. It's sort of an idea. It's not real yet. You have the ticket, you have your hotel reservations, but it's not real yet. When you get your badge in the mail, when you get your ticket in the mail, suddenly it's real. And I wanted everybody, all the fans at Comic-Con, for their first sort of interaction with the Comic-Con experience to be something special. So I said, you know, I want to do this great badge box, and I had all these ideas, and, you know, a lot of them got shot down. But we did end up doing the smaller badge box with the pin and the pocket guide, which I absolutely love. was sort of a know before you go type thing that could slide into your pocket if need be. I know the events guide had the full schedule and that's all you really need, but who can roll up an events guide and put in their back pocket all day? So that's was sort of the idea behind the pocket guide and the pins. And the badge boxes, I'm really, really proud of them. And this one by far is my favorite. I absolutely love this one. I fought super hard to use this old school logo. I think it's great. And it also became an opportunity for sponsorship. You know, it was another opportunity where Comic-Con could apply sponsorship in a way that wasn't sort of, you know, that felt natural, that didn't feel like it was forced upon you. So I'm sure everybody misses the badge boxes. I'm sorry.
Well, everybody loved them so much, but we are very grateful for the years we got them. So thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about your current position. As we mentioned earlier, you're event director at ReedPop, and congratulations. So what really drew you to that role? Because I have to imagine that it was hard to leave.
Really, really hard to leave. And especially at that time, I had this incredible team. You know, I'm going to drop a few names here, people that deserve some acknowledgement in registration. Amy Ramirez, who does program participant registration. Chris Schoenthal, who does professional registration. He has to process thousands of pro applications every year and badge them for both Comic-Con and WonderCon. And Tim Kimura in attendee registration. Very, you know, very integral to the badge boxes, part of the experience design team. So, you know, there's a lot of people behind the scenes at Comic-Con doing registration that I just want to give a quick shout out to. But back to ReedPop. In 2018, as you all know, I think, well, Gary touched on this a bit. John and Faye were the heart and soul of Comic-Con. They really were. They had a great working relationship together. Very different personality types. So it was sort of a yin and a yang, and it worked out really well for guiding strategy and guiding the staff. And John was my boss for many, many years and my professional mentor. He was like, you know, he was only not much older than me, but he was like my work dad. I learned so much from him and I had so much respect for him and the way that he approached things and his demeanor and he would come in my office every single morning and stop by my office and talk to me for 20, 30 minutes, just chit chat about the day. And then it would, you know, move into work talk. And when he passed away in 2018, that was really hard for me. That was a big challenge. And I think, and then shortly thereafter, 2020 hit and we were dealing with the pandemic. You know, a lot of people, there was some, you know, shifting in staff at the time. And this opportunity came along at ReedPop to do the Magic Con. And it hadn't been announced yet. I play Magic the Gathering. I'm a huge Magic the Gathering fan and player. And the opportunity to launch a brand new show around an IP that I loved and knew I was knowledgeable about really appealed to me. It was a challenge. I love a challenge. Like I mentioned before, when registration wasn't working, I wanted to figure out how to fix it. You know, when the exclusives weren't working, I want to figure out how to fix that. So here was an opportunity to take on an incredible challenge where I would be in charge of, you know, as the event director, in charge holistically of the entire team, of the team of marketing, of the sales, operations, registration. And because I had the experience at Comic-Con over the years of going through all those different departments, it was a good fit. I was excited to do it. And so I took the leap.
I love that you have just like not been stagnant, that like it always feels like you're looking for the next challenge. I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely. And you know, funny thing is MagicCon is starting to sell out. We're starting to get some line challenges on site in our Art of Magic area, which is beautiful. We work in partnerships with Wizard of the Coast and Hasbro. They're a great team over there. They're incredibly creative and they have a great eye for aesthetics and design. So they come to us with these amazing ideas. And then our job is sort of to make those incredible dreams happen. We build massive immersive exhibits that you can go through. We've done, you know, we also do the classic Comic-Con type stuff, like a cosplay contest. We portfolio review. there's a lot of things that I may have borrowed, from from not the San Diego Comic Con template, but the just general Comic Con template. How do we take this Magic Con event, which is a singular IP, and make it something that's more than just a bunch of people playing at tables for 3 days? And I feel like so far we've been really successful. I'll be in Amsterdam in about 2 weeks for Amsterdam Magic Con, and then we'll wrap up the year in Vegas with the World Championship in October. So it's been exciting. ReedPop's also allowed me to travel. I didn't do a lot of traveling in my youth. I've been to Barcelona, London, Amsterdam. I go to all, I try to go to all the comic shows, C2E2, Emerald City, New York Comic Con. It's just, Reed has this really, really great portfolio of events. And I have to say that the staff I work with are some of the most intelligent, talented group I've ever worked with. ReedPop is genuinely innovative. They will take risks. They are not afraid to fail. They're not afraid to change. They're not afraid to, go against the grain sometimes. And I love that about them. I think a lot of Comic-Con has been so successful for so long. It's just sort of rinse and repeat. And ReedPop is never rinse and repeat, ever. It's always, what's new? What can we do different? How can we integrate these sponsors? How can we bring in larger immersives? And I love how talented and creative everybody is there.
That's always good to hear, especially considering that what they do is provide a venue and an experience for fans of the things. So people who are always looking out for ways to make that better is always a good thing. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah. Even at San Diego Comic Con, I have to say, fan first mentality. It's always about, how is this going to benefit the fans? And I'd say even at ReedPop, nothing is discussed outside of the fan experience. If an idea comes to the table, we look and see if it's credible, but then we think, how will this impact the fans? That's always our number one sort of benchmark. And then we'll go, okay, well, how does this impact other areas? How does it impact the budget? Lots of other things down the line, but it is always 100% fan first.
So since you've been there, which has been about a couple of years now, that's basically as conventions have been restarting after lockdown. What's it been like being a part of them coming back in the growth again? Has that like look different to you, or is it like getting back to normal, or is it let's do new things?
People might disagree with me, but I feel like we're back to normal. It's been a pretty quick trajectory back to normal. Comic-Con, we did the online in 2020. We did an online convention, and it was really a fun and challenging task to figure out how do you take something that's a physical convention and bring it online. And I think we did a pretty good job of it. We tried, and now that events are back, I think there is an appetite for events because of the community aspect. I said earlier, I'm a Formula One fan. If there was a Formula One convention, I'd be there in a heartbeat, because I know that there's going to be so many thousands of other people who want to talk about the same things I want to talk about, who want to, see the same things I want to see. And that's not something that happens in your daily, everyday life usually. So there's an appetite for the community of conventions that's come back. And I think that the pandemic maybe even bolstered that a bit, because we weren't able to be together. So now people are ready to be together, and they want to, be with their tribe. And I think it's great to see that coming back.
So how different is it working a convention focused around one fandom, such as Magic or Star Wars Celebration, versus a general convention focused around everything?
Yeah, they're a little different, definitely. When you have a convention focused around one fandom, everybody there wants to be at the same place at the same time. They all want to be at the celebration stage, or they all want to be at the autograph signing, because it's one genre. They all want to be at every event. And again, supply versus demand. You can't always, get everybody into the stages or into the autograph signing or into the merch store. So I think there's more of a challenge on the logistical side of managing those events around crowd control and line control, and finding solutions for, everybody in that room wants to be at the same thing at the same time. Where at Comic-Con, if you have many interests, they're spread out. You know, you can go to the anime, I think there's like the anime place at the Marriott where they show anime films. You can go to the show floor. There's so many different things you can do at Comic-Con in different genres. It gets a little bit spread out, which is great. So when you have a singular IP or a singular genre, it can be challenging with the crowds because there's a really intense and eager, you know, fervor for the things they want to do. And that's just bred or born of passion. They have a passion for these IPs and they care about them and they're part of their life. So, you know, we're always really, really respectful of that, knowing that a lot of these people save up all year round to get to the show. You know, they're taking time off of work. This is their vacation for the year. So we got to make this special for them. So yeah, working with a singular IP is a little bit harder than multiple, but it's a fun challenge.
So speaking of how sometimes it's easier when things can be spread out, obviously at something like Comic-Con, things are even more spread out because of all the offsites and all the outside events. How important do you think it is to be able to balance those outside things with the inside things?
You know, I thought about that a little bit, and I wasn't even aware that that was kind of like something that was, the San Diego Comic-Con community was, kind of talking about. I'll be very honest. Faye and I have a rule where we do not talk work. So I don't talk to her about Comic-Con. She doesn't talk to me about ReedPop. It's not allowed to be talked about at the kitchen table. So I've been kind of out of the loop on the Comic-Con, whatever the latest, drama is and whatnot. But I think that a lot of that outside stuff, I'm speaking just as Maija Gates. I'm not speaking on behalf of San Diego Comic-Con or on behalf of ReedPop. There's not a lot of control you have there because these studios create these activations and they get to determine who comes in, what the rules are for that activation. Where when you come on site, Comic-Con has a very, strict set of rules of what you can and can't do on site. And they can get away with a lot more off-site, a lot more freedom. So it's appealing to these studios and companies to do these off-site activations because they have a little bit more freedom and ownership of what they're doing. What I think is silly is not having a bypass line for badge holders or allowing badge holders to register in advance. If I was doing the activation, I would use event technology to my advantage. I would open up a portal, you'd submit your name for a reservation, spit out your time, you show up and you do your activation. I think a couple of them have tried that. I don't know how successful it was. But even if you want to go low tech, priority line for the badge holders versus the non-badge holders. And it would make sense for those activations as well to have the badge holders come in because they're collecting your data. They're scanning your badge. They're getting what's most important, your name and your email, and now they can contact you. So I find it interesting that the activations are allowing non-badged members in. I don't know what the benefit is for them other than just more eyes on their content.
Absolutely.
What do you guys feel about it? What are your what's your opinion? I'm genuinely curious.
I mean, I will say I think that offsites are a great opportunity for let's say you only have a Friday and a Sunday badge, but then you need something to do on Saturday. So I do think that your badge should not have to be for that specific day, because that gives you an opportunity to go out and do something at the convention without physically being inside the convention center. I mean, we love reservation systems, and I actually thought it was really exciting. Obviously, you weren't there last year, but AMC for Interview with the Vampire, they tried a whole bunch of different things. So they did online reservations. They partnered with Comic-Con where you could go upstairs and just in the old school ticket draws,
oh wow,
you could get a reservation that way. And then they also had a standby line. So I thought that was really interesting that they had all different kinds of ways to try to get
hybrid
in.
solution. That's interesting. I haven't heard of a ticket draw in a long time.
Yeah.
I
pretty
do,
cool, James.
I do agree that a ticketed fast pass line for badge holders would probably be a welcome thing. I know that a lot of people in the local community go down there during Comic-Con just to experience whatever's down there, and that does increase the crowds and the wait times for those who are there specifically for Comic-Con. But I also think that, like you said, they just need eyeballs on the things and people talking about it. That's what they're there for. So it's like they really don't care, because as long as there's a line and there's always people in there, that's what they want.
Yeah.
But I think that
Yeah.
I think they would get a certain amount of positive feedback if they did have let's do, this group is all badge holders, and then the next group is, half badge holders, half the other line, and then more badge holders. Whatever way they would work it, I think it would definitely get a more positive feedback from badge holders. But then you have the negative feedback from those who are just, hanging out. But yeah, I agree. Definitely, as long as you have a badge for Comic-Con, you should be able to get into those offsites if they're doing that.
And I will say, pretty much everyone in our chat is like, this is a great idea. Like, we would love like badge holders express line. So yes.
That's
I
how
don't
I
think
would
it should ever be exclusive, though. I think that is part of the fun of Comic-Con, is the local community coming down and experiencing it and falling in love with it as well. Not just, oh, it's, that massive group of people who interrupt our city for a week. So I think that having people come down and enjoy it as well is also a very big positive.
I've definitely heard firsthand accounts of people who've never been to Comic-Con, weren't that interested in Comic-Con, ended up going downtown during Comic-Con for lunch or dinner, saw what was happening, got interested, and now they come every year. It's, it really, it's, downtown, the campus is like the gateway drug, right? You go down, you get a little bit of a taste of Comic-Con, and now you want it forever.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think we all agree.
What do you think people who don't know about, what's something you want people to know about what goes on making a convention that they probably don't know and you wish they did?
Oh my goodness. That we probably thought of that. So, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of thought that goes into all this stuff. It's not just thrown together at the last minute. There's ideation sessions. There's going through the pros and the cons. There's going through the plan A's, the plan, the B's, the C's. When we were trying to fix online badge registration, we'd worked so hard on this project for months and months and months, and then some little silly thing would go wrong. The member ID doesn't validate, or if you're using a certain browser, you can't get to the checkout, and we would just get, skewered on Twitter and Facebook. And at the time I would read the comments. I never read comments now. I learned my lesson. I will never do it again. But, at the time I'd read the comments, they're like, you guys are idiots. Why didn't you do ABC? And you morons, why didn't you do XYZ? And in my heart, I'm like, we looked at ABC, we looked at XYZ, and we couldn't do it because if we did ABC, it's going to break something we fixed over here. And if we do XYZ, it's going to break something we fixed over here, So I think that a lot of the time, I think a lot of fans don't know really how much thought is put into these things and how much effort. And yeah, that's just really what else I would love fans to know about Comic-Con. I think that something else that's really cool and we haven't touched on is Comic-Con's nonprofit status. They mean their mission and they support their mission. They have incredible programs throughout San Diego with the library, with educators. They do, the Comic-Con Museum in Balboa Park. It's not just oh, we're a nonprofit. They believe in the promotion of the popular arts. And I think I would love for more people to understand that there's teeth behind it. It's not just some false, like, oh yeah, we're nonprofit, promotion of popular arts, it's a tax shelter. No, it's literally, it was born from a group of people who wanted to preserve this art form, comics, the popular arts, science fiction, fantasy, animation, manga, like all of it. They wanted to not only preserve it, but get it to like more people, the masses. So I think that going nonprofit was a brilliant thing for them. And I wish that less people would kind of like crap on that idea.
Also, I think that they've done a pretty good job considering how much media the show gets.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, looking back on your time at Comic-Con, is there anything that really stands out as like what you are most proud of?
Oh my gosh. So, well, Gary stole one of mine. Thanks, Gary Sassaman. I think he said Force Awakens. I was really proud of that effort. That was, it took a lot of time, but to make that happen, that was something I'm really proud of. But the other thing I'm proud of is the teams that I built while I was there. So when I kind of took over talent relations from Sue and guest relations, she gave me a team of about 8 to 10 people. When I left 22 years later, that team is 120 strong. We did recruiting events. We got a lot of volunteers from UCSD. We were out there actively trying to recruit the right people for this position. And it was a volunteer position. So, you want to, it's hard to not only get people, but to get people that are going to do a good job and behave professionally around talent and, not get starstruck or ask for autographs. So building that team was really special to me. And a lot of those people I just became friends with. I genuinely put my heart and soul into getting to know every single one of them. So I've been to weddings, baby showers, bridal showers of a lot of my volunteers. One year I hosted a volunteer dinner at my house for Christmas and like 70 people showed up at my house. So I'm really, really proud of that team. And then right after that, I had the opportunity to build another one, which was the experience design team. So that started out with no volunteers. So we had to start that one out from scratch to build that team around on-site registration. It also grew, it's probably in the 100+ range. I don't know now. But knowing that I kind of I fostered as a manager and a director, I fostered an environment where these people want to come back year after year after year, because I made sure that to tell them how important they were to the event, how appreciative Comic-Con as an organization is for our volunteers. Again, they take a week off of work to come and work for free for us. And that's amazing. And that's generous. And I always want them to feel very, very appreciated because they are the heart of Comic-Con. If it wasn't for them, the 50, 60 people who plan it would not be able to do their job. The volunteers really are the heart of Comic-Con. So I'm super, super proud of the teams that I've built. I'm still friends with a ton of them. A couple of them come and work for me at MagicCon and Star Wars Celebration. So that is what I am definitely most proud of. Oh, and I'm proud of one more thing. Sorry. I have another prop. 2018, 2017, I was lucky enough to win an ink pot for fan services. So
Wow.
That's awesome.
This was extra special because John was still alive, so he got to see me get it. And it's for, I can't even read. Achievement in fandom services. So, for me, it felt like, hey, here's finally some recognition that I do want the fans to have the best experience ever. And John was there to see it happen. And that just was a really special moment for me. So this little guy lives in my kitchen.
I love that. So we've talked a lot about fandoms and being passionate, but I want to ask you, actually, besides Formula One, what are you passionate about?
Oh, Game of Thrones. Man, that is House of Dragons on Sunday. I can't wait. I usually have like Game of Thrones premiere and parties, and everyone comes over and we dress in costume. I've read all the books. I'm the total book nerd for Game of Thrones. So that's definitely one of my fandoms. I still read comics. I'm mostly a graphic novel girl. I had mentioned earlier, my first comic book was ElfQuest. My second was Teen Titans. I think the third one was Watchmen. I was like 10 years old, 9 years old.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Incredible, right? So I do still read comics. I read our graphic novels. I lean more towards I don't even know who the publishers are anymore, forgive me, but like Dark Horse, IDW labels. And Brian K. Vaughan Saga is like one of my absolute all-time favorites. He did this one-off book called Private Eye. That's incredible. So yeah, my fandoms are our comics. I love Game of Thrones. I love art just in general. I think when I moved, so one of the things I was appealing about working for ReedPop was I got to work remotely. But when I left my office at Comic-Con, I had so much art I had bought over the years, prints and everything from the different shows, that I have nowhere to put them in my house. I mean, they would just cover every single wall. So I have all this incredible art that I can't wait one day for either to have an office again or to have a larger space to put it in, because I really enjoy that. What other fandoms do I like? Gosh, those are the two that top the pop of my head immediately. Magic. I play Magic the Gathering. Yeah. So I have a regular Magic group. We try to meet once a month. It's been less lately because I've been so busy, but we still play. We play Commanders, our format. I have several decks. I have several of my own play mats. I have a custom play mat. So I love Magic the Gathering.
Love that. Yeah, James is big on card games as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I agree.
Well, do we have any questions in the chat that we can get answered, James?
I don't know. Ariel just wanted to say thank you because your passion for Comic-Con and ReedPop
Yes.
Cons made my experiences so memorable every year. So
Oh,
thank you.
nice. I love to hear that. One of the things I do as an event director is we do at ReedPop, we do post-show surveys. So they're sent out by email and the fans fill them out. And in general, those types of surveys are a little more on the negative side, because people are more likely to fill out a survey if something happened that upset them rather than fill out a survey if they had a great time. So what I do as an event director on the last day of the show on Sunday, usually I'll go down to the lobby as people are exiting and I stop. And I talk to them and I have my little notebook and I ask them about their weekend and how was their experience and what did you do and what was your favorite thing you did and what would you like to see for next year and then what would you change if you could change it. And you'd be surprised about how many people want to talk about it. They want to give feedback. They want to tell you, oh, I did this and I did that and that was great. But what could be better is if you did X, Y, Z. So I find actually doing these one-on-ones with the fan, it takes me several hours on Sunday to go through this, but doing these one-on-ones with the fans are really meaningful to me, to always keep in mind what's the fan experience, how can we make it better, and always be on the forefront of our planning.
Absolutely. Melissa Lopez on our chat asked, question for you, Team Black or Team Green?
Oh, Black. All the way, all the way. So I wish I could show you, but my license plate says Targaryen. So I am all about the fire-breathing Targaryen dragon madness. Give me the crazy kings and queens. I love it. Yeah, definitely. Great question. Great question. And there's so
that is
much
the correct
more to come.
answer.
If you don't watch that, if you haven't read the book that this series is based off of, it's incredible. And I think that House of Dragons is going to be even better than Game of Thrones, in my opinion, because they have all the source material to work with from a start to finish, and they have an ending, and it's an amazing ending. So I'm super excited.
Melissa said that's the correct answer as well. So yes, Stephanie L asked, who is the genius behind the at-home con signs and media? And yes, she's right. Those were amazing. Do you know
Which
anything
ones
about
remind
those?
me? I think that was Experience Design Team.
It was like you could print your own signs at home and you could have your own little badge. Yeah,
that was
so
us.
cute.
That was the Experience Design Team. It was like I mentioned, Tim Kammer and registration, a couple of other folks that no longer work there, but that was the Experience Design Team. And we said, let's let these people create Comic-Con at home. They can print their little, signs out. We did the badge. We were the ones that were really trying to create the fan experience at home. We did some crossword puzzles. We did the recipe cards. We did some other, things. We didn't have the glamour of the online panelists like Eddie Abraham and the programming team had, but we did try in our own way to bring the joy of Comic-Con into your living room. That was the idea behind those.
Yeah, they were cute. And Stephanie says she actually still has her signs in her house. So that's fun.
I love it. I love it. I love it. My last Comic-Con was 2021 special edition. And that was a unique one. It was coming back. It was a little bit different. But the year prior was 2019. And I think that was our anniversary year, right? The 50th anniversary, 2019.
So,
I remember. So. But that was such an incredible show. For me, that year will always stand out as sort of like the jewel diamond, the jewel crown. It was just a celebration of so many years of hard work. And we did a lot of really cool throwback stuff. There was a shirt I think the merch team did that was like a concert style shirt that listed all the shows on the back. It's probably my favorite Comic-Con shirt we've ever done. And the badge box was beautiful. The art was beautiful. And there's just this joy of knowing that this little tiny thing that started 50 years ago now is this globally known event. And the celebration of that was really, really special. So I'm glad I got to be at Comic-Con for that. And then, special edition. It was nice to see people having the desire to come back. That was really exciting. And again, I think it's all was based on community. People wanted to see their people again. They wanted to be with their tribe. So that was fun.
Well, I know you said that you don't read the comments, but later you should actually really go read these comments because you're getting an awful lot of thank yous for everything that you do.
That's very nice.
There's one more question in the chat that I actually do want to ask because I think it's interesting. Neon Polygons asked, how much sleep do you actually get during Comic-Con?
Okay. None, not a lot. It's pretty bad. But Comic-Con aside, I think I slept a grand total of like 8 hours during Star Wars Celebration. That show is like, whoo-wee, you're on site at 5:30 in the morning and you're not getting out of there till 1 a.m. It's a beast. But yeah, you basically, so let's talk about your day in the life of a Comic-Con employee. You got to get on site early, right? You got to be there 6:30, 7 a.m., way before the lines start forming. Here's an opportunity for me to also recognize Scott Zimmerman, who runs our line department. What a job. I mean, there's so much logistics that goes into that. Just the sheer moving of people. You wouldn't think it's that hard to move a line of 2,000, but it's really difficult to move a line of 2,000 people. And it takes way more time than anybody who's never done it would anticipate. So, the line teams there super early. Most of the staff gets there 7:30 a.m. You hit the ground running. You're trying to check your email to see what's come through from the studios, before you get your day started. And then it's just go, 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 putting out fires, doing this, doing that. You might maybe eat like a bag of peanuts if you're lucky, bottle of water if you can find one. Everyone jokes about the Comic-Con diet, but it's a real thing. Almost everybody loses weight and comes back, like 10 pounds skinnier after Comic-Con because you basically run around all day and then you get back to your hotel. When I was doing talent relations, I would get back to my hotel usually around 2 a.m. because we were there trying to get together the car schedule for the morning because as we talked about earlier, last minute changes when you're working with talent and Hollywood and studios, constant last minute changes. So we'd be in there until 2 in the morning trying to figure out the schedule for the next day because we'd gotten so many emails that day while we were working with changes. So you get back to the hotel, you literally just crash face down, alarm goes off, you somehow roll out of bed, put on the same staff shirt you wore the day before, and head right back to the convention center for another day of it. But yeah, on average, it's like 4 hours a night, usually, if you're lucky. 4 to 5, yeah.
Crazy, but you love it and you can tell. So, I mean, we're
Yeah,
all the
it's
same.
a lot of fun. I'm gonna say I'm getting old, so it's getting a little tired. It's wearing me down. I'm enjoying more. As I work with ReedPop, I've been leaning a little bit into more in their event technology side of things. That's really kind of where my passion is at these days. I love live events. I love putting on live events, but they are hard on your body, man. They're hard on your soul, but they are definitely worth it. And goes all the way back to that story about The Force Awakens when I got to finally see people so incredibly happy and know that I had something to do with that. That was special because you do all this work ahead of time and even work, running up to the show, you're only sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night because you're working all the time. It's just like the con season. I never had a summer. And now that I work with ReedPop, I have summers again. So this is exciting. I had to work every 4th of July for like 20 years So to have my summers back is pretty rad. I mean, I've never had them, and living in San Diego where summer's great, it's cool to be able like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the beach today. It's July 15th. I'm gonna go to the beach.
Love it. Love it. Well, Maija, we are so thankful that you have joined us. This has been so much fun, and maybe we'll try to
Absolutely.
get you back in the future if you're willing.
Yeah.
But before we let you go, why don't you tell our readers where they can find you online?
I'm not really an online presence type of girl. No,
It's
I'm
okay.
like behind the scenes. I'm like, the person behind the curtain doing the things. That's how I like to be. And I actually learned a lot of that. Just one more shout out again to John Rogers. Talk about one of the most humble, just and Faye Desmond as well. Both of them never were interested in the limelight or the accolades. It was really all about the convention. So they weren't out there, accepting awards from the city of San Diego. And even though they got them, and I remember Con Talk Back. I'm sure you guys have been to Con Talk Back. And I was always in awe of how John handled Con Talk Back. He would genuinely listen. He would let the fan talk for, as long as he wanted to, sometimes to the detriment of the Con Talk Back, but he would let the fan talk as long as they needed to. He would, genuinely listen. And then he was calm. He was cool. He'd say, all right, thank you for your feedback. We're going to bring that back and we're going to, look at that and see how we can fix that for future years. And that's the way to do it, right? That is the way to be a leader and to be a public facing leader is you take the ideas, you take the feedback, you take the good, you take the bad. I'm not going to start singing that song. You take the good, whatever. But he, sometimes some of the feedback was brutal. But he would sit there and he would listen, and his grace and his humbleness was just something that I always strive to sort of work on. I'm a little more energetic. I get a little bit more passionate about things. So I have this kind of joke. It's like WWJD, what would John do? And I use that a lot when everything's kind of on fire, it's like, what would John do?
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again so much, Maija, for joining us. This was so much fun, and hopefully we will see you around at a convention.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to make it to Comic-Con this year. Fingers crossed I can. But thank you for having me on, and maybe we can tell some more stories of the tales of Hall H someday.
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, Maija. Well, that was fun. She was a great guest.
Yes. Awesome.
Yes.
And now there's time for Comic-Con news. Offsites and exclusives.
News.
All right.
Yeah.
What do we got?
Okay, I'm gonna go in the opposite order because I think I put these in the wrong order on this sheet. So we're gonna start with parking. Parking groups officially went out yesterday. So there's only 2 groups this year. There's group 1, which would be this upcoming Monday, and then group 2, which will start on Monday 24th. And then after that, July 1st will be the public sale. We have the lots and the rates up on our site, so you can start planning for that now. Do you want to take the next one, James?
Sure. Collider announced a panel that they're going to be hosting, and it sounds vaguely familiar, but with a new slant, and it's producers on producing. They normally do a directors on directing panel, but this year they're doing a producer version. No other information except for the fact that they're holding it, but of course we would expect that this is likely going to be in Hall H, where the directors on directors panels have been happening. And the Collider editor-in-chief, Steve Weintraub, will be the one that is hosting and promises you can expect some surprises.
Yep. So I'm sure we'll get some footage or some fun stuff. Last year they gave out posters actually for the creator, so who knows what you could get. The trolley wraps have officially started. We got our first wrap, which is for Ghost, Elsbeth, and Tracker for Paramount Plus. We already know that Paramount Plus is the Lodge is back. Otherwise, that is what this would be hinting at, but we already know that it's coming back. So will these things get panels? TBD. I'm going to very strongly assume Ghost will, but TBD on the rest. Not everything that was on the wraps last year got a panel. So.
And we got some badge pickup info, which really doesn't look like much has changed. You can start picking up badges for those of you who did not get them mailed for whatever reason, mostly for international attendees. But you can start picking up on Tuesday, July 23rd from 1 to 5 p.m. and then Wednesday from 12 to 9. And then the rest of the convention days from 8:30 to 7, except Sunday. It only runs till 5.
The biggest change is the change that they made last year, which is that, like, if you only have a single day, like let's say you only have a Sunday badge, you can actually pick that up on Tuesday, which is not how that used to work. So that's kind of exciting. If you are interested in commissions, we have a whole lot of them open up on our open commission list. Hopefully some of you were lucky enough to get Val Hochberg's commissions, because those opened today and we're gone in, I think, 4 minutes. So a lot of folks getting commissions this year, which we love to see. We always try to push those. It's one of the best things, in my opinion, that you can bring home from the convention. Like, it's custom art that is only for you. Like, why would you not want that? And if you pre-order,
it's a one-of-one exclusive.
It's a one-of-one exclusive, and if you pre-order, you spend the money now, so by the time you get it to the convention, it's like it's free. Yep, not wrong. All right, so let's talk about Offsites. James, do you want to kick us off?
No, I'm going to do the second one.
Okay, that's fine. So the Comic-Con Museum is launching a Summer Nights After Hours series. For right now, at least, it only goes through Friday, July 19th, which is the week before the convention. But they have weekly Friday events centered around, like, Dungeons and Dragons, puzzle building, zombie side game night, all kinds of different things. So those will be from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tickets are only $15 for the general public, or museum members get in for free. You can find the information for that up on our site.
The Hello Kitty Cafe truck is back at Comic-Con. They're celebrating the 50th anniversary. They're going to have a bunch of cool merch. They're going to be in the Petco Interactive Zone from Thursday through Sunday. They have things like an iridescent tote, a lilac t-shirt, a keychain, giant cookies, a 3-piece cookie set, patches, just all kinds of stuff that you can get. Looks all, of course, very cute, lots of pink. So you Hello Kitty fans are going to be feasting.
Yes, absolutely. So as always, the Robert A. Heinlein Blood Drive is back, and you can make your appointments now. As always, they will be open from Wednesday to Sunday at different times, but you can go and make your reservations now, and it's a great way to give back, and you can help save a life.
And then we have a signing that is off-site, a bit off-site, but it is during Comic-Con on right before Comic-Con, Tuesday, July 23rd at 6 p.m. So if you're getting into town early, this may be something you want to do. It is Gravity Falls creator Alex Hirsch doing a book signing. It's going to be a cost of $29.08. It's at 6 p.m. And so you can come and get this book signed. Let me see, which one is it? It's the Book of Bill.
That 8 cents really, like, pushed it over the edge of the
Yes.
curve.
Tickets will be available beginning on June 17th next week.
Yeah. One thing I did want to mention, though, is that he will not be signing anything else. It will just be the book, because we had a whole bunch of people reply to this and be like, oh, I'll bring this for him to sign. No, you won't. So let's get into the exclusives, starting with Jada Toys, who announced 2 exclusives this week.
Let me get that going here.
Yep, that's what I'm trying to read very slowly. Okay, so Jada Toys, the first exclusive is for Street Fighter. It's a Violent Ken. It's a 6-inch articulated figure. We've got no word yet on pricing, but he will be available both at their booth and then for pre-order online beginning Thursday, July 25th at 9 a.m. And then my favorite of the 2 is there is a 6-inch Cheetos Chester Cheetah Flamin' Hot Glow in the Dark version, which comes with a realistic Cheeto bag that he can hold. I just think that's fun. He was $29.99, and you can actually order him right now on Entertainment Earth, so that's fun.
That is fun. And next up, we have the South Park lanyard set from Monogram. This will be a monogram lanyard and pin set with some enamel pins, as you can see here. It's going to be limited to 300 sets, and you can pick it up for $20 at their booth on the floor. Their booth number is 3645.
Yep. And they have plenty of more exclusives to show off. Patrick Ballesteros showed off one of his prints. This will be an open edition 8x14 print titled Hell Yeah for Helldivers. It looks fun. It's got a whole bunch of fun little Easter eggs scattered throughout. It will be $27. He also showed off some daily stickers for X-Men that he's going to have. They're 3x3 inches and they'll be available for $4 each. But to know which sticker is going to be which day, you'll have to follow him on Twitter or Instagram, where each morning of the convention, he'll show off which sticker he's doing.
All right. And then finally, we have NECA with a few of their first few exclusives. We have first up the King Features Flash Gordon 1980 7-inch scale action figure, which recreates the Wood Beast challenge scene from the film. It comes in a package in a window box with flap and no word on pricing yet. And then we also have the Predator, and it's the 7-inch scale Prey action figure from the movie Prey, the ultimate camo reveal Predator set. Again, no word on price, but these are both part of the NECA pre-sale that will be happening June 26th through 28th on their site, where each day you have a chance to purchase these, and they will be mailed to you after the convention, or you can, just pick them up at the convention as supplies last there.
Yeah, you just can't pre-order to pick up at the convention. Beeline also has some exclusives, including like a Nightmare Before Christmas, Scary Jack tiki mug. They've got a Toy Story Aliens tiki mug, and then they've got some Star Wars ones, which we showed off before. But they were mean to us, so they don't get a slide. Yep. That's where we're at. Okay. So there is plenty of other news on our site, which you can find in our Under the Tents or on our calendar. And there will be tons more news as we get closer to the convention. It all just speeds up.
Yes, indeed.
Don't forget that you can sign up for our attendee of the week. We would love to feature you. You can find details for how to sign up for that on our site. We feature a new attendee every week. We also don't forget that we have a Patreon. If you appreciate the work that we do, we give our patrons some fun perks, including our party, which we will be allowing them to get tickets for first on Saturday. Expect more details about our party here very soon. Just trying to wrap up a couple last minute things, but I'm very excited about our party. I don't know that anybody else is, but I am.
There's got to be at least one other person that's excited, right? At least one.
It's Sarah. Sarah's the other person. Yes, no, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We have some amazing artwork for you guys to show you all. Val Hochberg, we've been working with her, and you guys, she's just like knocked it out of the freaking park. Like, you don't even know.
Yep.
Unless you're on our Patreon, and then you kind of do know because we showed you. So
all right. I think that's it, right? Is it for today?
I think so, yeah.
All right. So once again, thank you to Maija for coming on and sharing the stories and the behind the scenes information and all of that. We really appreciate it. We're going to be back next week with more news and exclusives and all that. And we also have another guest.
We do. Do I even know who's on next week?
We do know.
It is.
Yes.
Okay. We have two guests next week, actually. Wow. We have Rick Geary, who is the genius behind the Toucan mascot. So we're so excited to talk to him about that. And then XLE Events is also going to be joining us to tell us about their events for this year.
All right. Two guests. How are we going to manage that? That's crazy talk.
Very carefully.
All right. So again, remember, you can sign up for the newsletter. That will be coming weekly.
Yeah, and we started it today.
Nice. All right. So thank
Yes.
you all for joining us. Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Carrie Dixon, but as we get closer to the convention, you can pretty much only find me on the blog Twitter. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am everywhere at Dan Regal, and you can also check out Citizens of Lorcana, where I talk every week about the new Disney trading card game Lorcana. Thank you to Beth, our producer, for editing the show and creating the slides and all the little things that get this podcast done.
We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up in the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We're also on Stitcher Radio and Spotify, and the links are in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at info@sdccblog.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for listening, and everybody go shawarma.
Shawarma.
Now we just need to figure out what the other things in my top 3 are.
Oh, for top 3 Comic-Con events. I was like, what?